Funny.
Oh
Okay,
my
so it
gosh.
says we are live. You guys, we're having all kinds of fun behind the background here because it was saying that we were live on her side. It was
Yes.
not, we weren't showing that we were live on mine. And then she just said, "Ready, Freddy," and I had to giggle. She's like, "I haven't said that forever." And I'm like, "I
I
have not
haven't
heard
said
it
that
in
phrase
forever."
in like probably decades. What the heck? I don't know. You go live and things happen. That's what's
Yeah.
one part about being on live.
All right, so I'm just going to share this to my personal page really quick just to make sure, because it just seems like just in case, right? Because things have been so weird. So hello everybody and welcome to our conversation. We haven't really started the interview yet. We were just chit-chatting and making sure we were ready to go live, and that's the beauty of live, right? Sometimes it starts when you're not ready and sometimes you don't know it's going.
I know. And we were talking about something and I'm like, "Oh, it says you're in the show. Everyone can see and hear you." I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome if they just seen and heard what I just said."
So, and just to give you guys a background, we're not talking about anything bad. We're just talking about all of the energy right now that's going
energies.
on. So
This
there's
is
so
a
many
different
yeah, so much going on, so much energy, so much craziness. But let's go ahead and start this guest interview. I am so excited to have you guys with me here today. As always, you guys know I'm really laid back with this. If you want all of her professional bio and all of that good stuff, it's all in the post. You can find that on YouTube or here on Facebook. Everything you need to know about this beautiful woman is going to be there. I met Wendy a while back, and I have to say, I actually have your book here, and I am done with it, and I'm dying for the next one.
Oh gosh. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this book. So obviously we started really wacky. We're just gonna roll with it. So tell us about you and how you got into your podcast and how you wrote your book. And because you and I have talked a little bit behind the scenes, and that wasn't really something you thought would ever maybe be part of your life. So let's just dive into it, because I love inspiring people to just go for it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm so glad to be here. So, my book, A Gray Resort, it came out a couple of years ago, 2019, and which is hard to believe. 3 years ago, I guess. So, I had spent a good amount of time writing that book, and I had always wanted to be a writer. Even when I was a little girl, I wanted to write. I wrote more poetry, but I wrote a lot of short stories. It was just my way of trying to fit in, because when I was younger, I didn't seem like I fit in really. And it was just an outlet for me. So, and we lived on this beautiful resort. My parents owned this summer resort. It was on a lake. It was just gorgeous. And people that know me know about, the story about the resort, but there was something to be said about that time. It was during the 70s and 80s. It was in a small town. We actually lived 5 miles outside of that small town, lived on a lake and a pool, had 8 cabins. My parents were both very, just very giving people. They just loved to bring a lot of people together. They had a lot of gatherings. And in addition to that, there was some paranormal stuff that happened here and there along the resort. And I kind of realized that, I was sort of sensitive to that without sounding a little crazy. I just knew about things that I felt like I shouldn't have known. And so it just, the whole thing made for an interesting story. And I thought, you know what, I need to write this down. So in the throes of parenting, so I have 2 sets of twins. They're 3 years apart. The older set,
2 sets of twins.
I know. You know what? When I go in life, I just dive right in. When I do something, I do it. I don't do it. I just don't do it lightly. I go right in there. The older set is seniors. The younger set is freshmen. But during this time of child rearing, let's go back 8-10 years, I was formatting the story, or, it was just, I was a stay-at-home mom. I stayed home with them probably about 10-12 years with them, because it was all 4 kids. And, we really couldn't afford childcare for 4 kids. Right. And I didn't feel comfortable doing that. And so that's, it's a person's choices, but it was just my choice. And I was able to make that choice. And I'm thankful for that. So that's what I did. But, the days were long. My husband worked long hours. My family lived out of state. Now I had his family, and I got to be close to my mother-in-law, who has since passed on. She passed away last year. I was very close to her. But anyway, she had helped me, and my parents did come. So I'm from Wisconsin. They had come from Wisconsin to help me for like a couple weeks when the babies were born. And anyway, it was a hard time in my life is what I'm trying to get at. And it was very entrenched in mothering and childcare. And one of the things that I wanted to do is writing. And so I did that. And it was a nice way to get away. And I thought back to what happened on the resort, and really the story just kind of wrote itself. I didn't really outline the story. I don't write that way. I had all these ideas, and it took a while for the book to finally get made because of the kids. It took probably about 8 years. But it was something that was on my heart. I'm like, I need to get this out. I need to get this out. It was like something was saying, get it out. And I never thought it would happen. And so it did. It happened last summer of 2019. And my life has not been the same. It's when I had my first book signing at 317 Coffee just down the street. And I saw, friends and family come, and I saw the line of people. And it was just something I can't really, I'm a writer, but I can't put it into words. When they would come up to the table and that sparkle that they had in their eye, can you sign this book? And I'm like, sure. I mean, they were excited. And I wanted the book to resonate. That was, the next thing. And it started resonating with people. And I have sort of a small following. And I would get reviews that would come in from people I don't know. I can't put this book down. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is exactly what I was going for. I mean, the book isn't for everyone. I don't want it to be for everyone. I want it to, but there's a vast majority of ages. I've had guys my husband's age say, you know what? I picked up the book thinking it was about fishing because there was a doc on there. And there is a little, and he goes, but you know what? It was the strangest thing. I could not put it down. It was just written in such a different way. And that's what I was going for.
Yeah. That
was the key thing. And when I was going over the book again and again, I would always be conscious and mindful of, okay, this needs to be tightened up, or this isn't really flowing well, or this is sort of boring. I got rid of a lot of stuff, and but man, you can do it so much. And at some point, you have to say, okay, this is the finished product. This is what it's going to be. That's a hard thing to do, but I did. I had an English professor look it over, and he kind of went through it and gave me some pointers. And and it's just, it's taken a life of its own, and it's been really fun. And my second book is coming out later this year.
I'm so excited about that one. I'm really excited for them. So I'm a reader. I love to read. Like, that is part of my self-care routine. It's part of, like, when I'm starting to feel like I just need a break, that's what I'll do is I'll get lost in a book. I'll just take an afternoon and go get lost in a book. And it's so wonderful. And I love to read. And I've always been a reader. I raised my kids to want to read. I used to have to force one of them to read, but so I had one that was a pretty good reader, and I had one that was like, I will bribe you if you will read.
Hey, my kids haven't read my book. One of them has. So it's like
my kids have read mine either. But anyway, so it's really fun, I think, to find those. And of course, with the paranormal stuff, I was a little bit more drawn to it even still, because I'm like, oh, I can't wait to find out what's actually real and what's made up in that book. Right. But doesn't matter. That's not what we're talking about today. But I think the timing of it, especially knowing that it came out in 2019, was actually really divine timing because of all of the paranormal things. Like, so many people are awakening on a new level to all of the spiritual stuff that goes on around us all the time anyway. And so it's really nice to see a book that kind of reflects maybe some of the weird experiences that people can have. But I want to back up a little bit, because one of the things you said was, when you're being a mom, it's interesting how, as women, and this is something that I like to always bring into every interview I do is that being whatever part of life that you're in, allow yourself to be that. So for the new moms that are going through it and you feel like, oh my God, I'm so in this and I it's overwhelming. It's okay. There are women who have been there. There's nothing wrong with you if you're feeling overwhelmed with having kids.
Absolutely not.
And for those of us who have already made it through, good job.
Absolutely. Awesome. Yay to you. I mean, it is a very difficult job because it is, you don't want to get it. You want the very best for your children, but yet you don't want to lose yourself. And a lot of times women do lose themselves because they're so into, and that's good. But at some point you have to take a step back and say, okay, I have to take care of myself. Everyone says self-care, but you really have to do self-care. You have to carve out the time to do what you want to do and not be guilty. I think there's a lot of mom guilt out there.
Oh, so much.
I mean, come on, don't be guilty. Don't feel guilty if you want to go out with your girlfriends and recharge. That's the good, or maybe go to a movie or whatever it is, or maybe go to a restaurant with some people or by yourself, just to have that quiet time. I feel like, for some reason, and I don't know if this is my age or whatever, but noises, like stark noises, kind of bother me. Like if someone drops, like one of my kids drops their phone on the kitchen floor, it's like, oh my God, it's like, maybe I'm like sensory overload or whatever, but noises, I guess I have to get more calm and do some more calm things. I probably could use a little bit more meditation. I don't do that because
I love meditation.
That is so busy. I know. I have to. I guess that's my body saying, yeah, you should do more of that.
Yeah. Well, it's too funny because every time somebody says I don't have time for meditation, I'm like, that's exactly when you need it the most.
I know.
So I'll throw that at you there for a minute.
I know.
Okay. So we haven't even talked about your podcast yet, but I want to go back to the book. So you actually wrote this while your kids were while you were at home with your kids, and then it took time for it to come to fruition and actually be a printed book, but now you're already on to your second one.
Yes.
So do you feel like it was momentum, or do you feel like it was just timing, or feeling like it needed to be perfect before you could put it out, or what do you think? It could be a combination of all of those things, right?
Yeah. Well, as far as the second book, because of COVID, I was able to work at home. I had a lot of extra time. Well, not a lot, but I did have an opportunity that I normally wouldn't have, as far as, I've got people saying, you got to write the second book. You got to write the second book. Now, when I wrote the first book, when I first started writing it, I didn't write it with the intention that it was going to be a series at all. My fellow author friend said, this has got to be a series, right? She goes, you have to do this. This one book is not going to cut it. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do a series. I go, a series, what, 3? She goes, yeah, 3. Make it 3, standard, 3 books. And she was adamant about it. She was like, you will do this. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't want to let her down. The second book, it was very easy to, it didn't take as long. I had a lot of fun with it. Now, it is a different book, and I am nervous. I hope people are going to go on this roller coaster ride with me. I'm introducing a bunch of new characters, and that was so much fun. Some of the characters are based on people I know. Some are just totally, completely made up. But I think it just pairs well nicely with the story. And it will take the story on to my third book, which I started, and I got about 30 pages into the third book. But that's down the way. So my second book should be coming out probably in December. So what I did the hard part was about last week. I sent the manuscript over. So there's a lot of moving parts between now and then. So cover has to be, cover design, formatting, marketing and things. So it takes about 60 to 90 days. And Amazon requires that you have like 60 days of pre-order before it can actually, you can actually order the paperback. So yeah, but I will have the Book Baby link. People will be able to order the book before Christmas on my Book Baby link. Absolutely. And they'll be able to order the second book as an ebook before Christmas, and they'll be able to order the paperback. But it might come like maybe around Christmas. I don't know, but it's exciting and I'm so excited. I mean, I can't wait for people to read it.
Yeah. Well, so again, before we switch over to the podcast, because I want to talk about that too, if you guys have not gotten this book, I can't figure out where to put it there.
No,
the cameras are so different on all of the different streaming places. Like everyone has a different place of where you're supposed to look at the camera. So the book was really fun. I really enjoyed it. It's a great read. So those of you, if you like exciting, it was such a fun book. Like I was easy to get lost in the story of it.
Oh, cool.
Definitely grab A Gray Resort by Wendy. And of course, all of her information is in the description for this video, but let's also talk a little bit about your podcast. Because I love that too. I love the idea that you have behind it. So tell us a little bit about your podcast and how that was born as well.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So last year, my friend Shawn and I, it was like in the throes of right in the middle of the pandemic. Things were getting gray and dingy and just things around here, like everywhere else, seems stagnant, right? It just, and we're both creative people. And I just felt like, I'm tired of hearing all this incessant negativity on the news, and I want to do something uplifting. I know several people with mental health issues, and it seemed like it was getting worse and worse. And then you're having all these rules and things, and it was just, and it wasn't changing. It was just kind of flat lines. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this creative outlet thing. I like to write, but I also want to get our message out there. So, so I came up with a Juicy Pear podcast. We had about 50 different names. And I was hoping that she would end up liking that one, and she did. And we came up with that, and it's been really a fun ride. I love to have all kinds of people on the show. We love talking to people who have overcome obstacles. We love creative types, artists, musicians, entrepreneurs, psychics, basically anybody who has an interesting story, right? And everyone really does if they think about it, and I wanted to just have transparent conversations with people and to be real. And I think it's important, just giving people of your time, because it seems like, I don't know, right now as a society, everything is so busy and everything is so chaotic, and people are just, they're busy doing this and busy doing that. And I'm guilty of that as well. But sometimes it's just nice too, to actually kind of get to know somebody and, learn about what makes them tick, and just kind of learn about people and experiences, because there's just so much of that out there. And yeah, we've had a lot of fun with it, and we're going to be doing it for as long as we can.
Yeah, it's super fun. I've seen the difference. You've had like bands that have been on, and I mean, the variety of the life stories, I think, is what I really, really like about your podcast. Is it's such a broad, there is such broad topics, like, but it's also it's human life, right? It's all about what is your human experience, which is so beautiful. And I loved it. And I was a guest on there not too long ago. So that was really fun. I enjoyed that as well. The other thing that I want to talk about, because you and I actually met through this anthology book that we both worked on, which is called Thriving Beyond Crisis. And I love that because it's about women coming together to talk about their stories and how you really can overcome whatever you think that you may not think you could overcome. And you may end up in life in places that you never thought you'd be, just based on life experience and the things that we come through. One of the things that I like to say is that I know we all have a divine purpose. Like, we're all here for a purpose. Part of that is the experience of this human life and what we enjoy and what we'd love to do. But there's also lessons, right? Like the lessons that we go through. And I feel like that book is a really good mixture of heartfelt things that women have been through, and how when you look at it sometimes from a different lens, or when you can look through it from the other side, right? Like when you're in the tragic moments,
when you're
really
in those
hard.
moments, when you're in those moments, you can't really see it clearly because you're in the middle of the storm. And it just, you have more clarity or 20/20 vision, whatever, as you back up, or after you've had the experience. And sometimes you don't really fully get it until maybe a couple of years after, like, oh, okay, this is why that happened. Or, And I love that the authors are from all around the world, and they're all different kind of stories. And the book has hit bestseller status in several categories already: spirituality, childcare, a bunch of different ones. So that was, that's pretty amazing.
It was really exciting, wasn't it?
I know. And I think the paperback's going to be coming out here shortly.
I haven't seen the date on that yet, but it's fun to well, and it was fun to meet you going through that as well.
Oh, it sure was.
I
love your book too. I want to mention your book. So your book is amazing as well. Let me see if I can get it.
Oh my goodness.
Secret Experiences of a Classic Psychic.
Yeah.
This probably isn't good.
That one was really fun. It's so funny because I never in a million years thought I would write a book, like honestly. And so it was really funny that I've actually written a couple, and I've done a couple anthologies, and I have a journal out, and I'm like, this was never anything that I had on my radar as something that I would want to do in my life.
But it was so interesting. I was like eye-opening. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Thank you. That one was actually one of those things where my girlfriends were like, you should put all these stories in a book. And I'm like, I didn't even, that's like the skim of the top of some of the experiences that I've had. I'm like, I kept them really short and specific, and just little blips of all of the different stories that I thought would be fun to put in the book. And a little bit about the broader experience when you're born with the intuitive ability and the psychic ability that I have, the things that you see that other people don't see, and not realizing until I was a little bit, and
like, it's scary. It's like, where is this info coming from?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you, but it's like, where is this info coming from? It is scary at a young age, because that's what I experienced as well. And, in the beginning of A Gray Resort, the beginning part about the grandmother, that part is true. That did happen. So, but of course, if you read the book, not all of it is true. Right. But there are moments of truth peppered in there. And I think that's what makes it fun to read.
Right. Yeah. It's such a fun book. I absolutely love it. So, okay. So you have The Gray Resort, which of course I love. So everybody that's on, if you haven't read this, go ahead and read it. I like to have the paper. So I will definitely be ordering the paper.
I got to have the paperback. I have to have it in my hand. I mean, it is convenient to have an e-reader, and there are people that say, oh no, I prefer to read it. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't know. I guess we're just old school. I like to have it in my hand.
Okay, so I'm actually hoping maybe I'll get your second book for my birthday, because my birthday is the end of December. So that would be super fun.
I think that would work out nicely.
Yeah. So what else would you like us to know, or like what's coming up on your podcast that you're super excited about? I know I've seen a couple people just say, hey, how are you? How fun. So we're getting some conversation. You guys know, I forgot to say this because of the way that this interview started with the tech issues starting, but if you guys have any questions for me or Wendy on any of the conversations that we're having today, because we're talking about so many different things, but again, that's also kind of within the energy right now. Like there's so much going on, and there's retrograde, so it's like talking about everything at once is actually pretty appropriate for the time that we're in right now.
And I just want to circle back to the podcast thing now. As far as, I had so many people say, oh, you're an author. You should just have authors on your show. And I'm like, I mean, there's plenty of those, right? And then you should just have, just make it about a particular topic. And I thought, well, why limit myself? I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to, what if I had this show and then I met some really cool person? I'm like, oh, I could have you. I can't have you on my show because it's not, And I didn't want to get into those things. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to make it the way I want to make it. A Juicy Pear Podcast, a juicy story, fun and interesting. We have. So I'm going to be on another show tomorrow. Wendy Stewart. She's great. I'm going to be live on her show. I'm going to have, I've got a bunch of different guests coming up. Excuse me. I'll be talking to a fireman in about a month or two, and he's going to be sharing his experiences on the job. I'll be talking to a musician. I will be talking to a couple psychics. Also, later this week, her name is Sherry Nelson. She is a Maxim model and actress and phenomenal person. So I'm excited to be interviewing her later this week. So I've just got all kinds of people going on.
And see, to me, that's so much fun because that's what life is about. That's another thing my guides have been talking about lately too, is part of the life, a part of the spiritual awakening is really learning how to experience being human. And I think that's great. So I love your podcast and I love that you're doing it your way. Like that's one of the things that I really love. And kind of the overall message, that I want to make sure everybody understands today is I love bringing all these women on with all of these different topics as well, because I don't have a solid theme, because I feel like life is all of it. It's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, galactic energies, all of that combining into this life experience that we have. And so everybody has a unique way to bring their stories through, and different people can relate to different stories, and there's so much going on. But one of the big things that I want to encourage everybody to do, and I think what you actually showed us, is doing it your way. Like write the book your way, write the stories your way, mix it up on the second one. You don't have to follow this is the way we do things. And the same with the podcast, like doing it your way. I feel like that's what everybody, the big takeaway is, whatever is fun for you, whatever is valuable to you, whatever you enjoy, that's the best thing to do. When you do that, you're in divine flow, and then life gets
there's something to be said for that. Yeah, there's something to be said for that. You know, it is hard. It is hard to go out of your comfort zone, because that when you are putting a book out into the universe, I mean, let's face it, you're vulnerable, right? At any time, anybody could, give you a not so good review or whatever. But you know what? It's worth it. It's worth it because, doing what you want to do, everything changes. Like what you said, divine flow, everything is just smoother. It's a smoother ride. You know, you're doing the right thing, and just keep up with it. And I never, ever thought that I would be a published author. And I am. And I mean, I really didn't. I had a lot of different things happen, but right before it was to be published, I had half the manuscript. I lost it. I had a lot of technical problems on my laptop, and I think the first day it was actually out, Amazon had it out of stock. And I was like, oh boy. And I had all these sort of issues, but you just have to clear the path and just keep moving forward, take it one day at a time, and just be resolute in yourself and believe in yourself. Because if you believe in yourself, someone else, you're going to find your tribe of people. You're going to find your group of people that believe in you as well and want to read your stories. So
that's beautiful. I think that was the perfect little way to end this interview, because how inspirational and how amazing. So Wendy, thank you so much for coming on and being a guest with me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this crazy little fun, fast interview with all of these different topics, because it's just fun to chat sometimes and just remember that we're human. And it's fun to take a break sometimes and just get lost in a book. So thank you for writing it, because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the second one. And all of you guys that are here, check out her podcast. Again, all of the links are in the description, so you can find out how to follow her, where to find her podcast, how to get her book, all of those fun things. So sending you guys lots of love. Hope you're having a great day. And again, Wendy, thank you so much for being on today.
Oh gosh, it's been so much fun. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.